Such a little beer. Such a little guy. Look at that little guy. So, that is my half of the Mike Dean big ass barrel aged barley wine. So, I'm not going to go into a review right now because I'm going to sit down and do it. But anyway, it's Tuesday night. Tomorrow's Homebrew Wednesday. And let's see. We'll talk about a few things other than this beer. We'll go over what's in the Keyser, what's in the firm chamber, and we'll do a review on the beer. So let's spin this around and we'll go. All right, guys. So it's Wally, as we already know. So let's sit down and we're going to look at this bad boy. So this is Mike Dean's barley wine. See, this is Mike Dean's. This is the Dean's List very first barrel aged beer here. So we added just to get a hog wild. The barley wine is a collab with Mike and myself. I'm not reading verbatim here. So if you received it, you must have done something pretty significant. So it's typical grist, orange blossom honey, Magnum, Citra, Amarillo, Columbus for hops. Yeast is Imperial flagship. He aged his in a maple rye whiskey barrel. Our grist was exactly the same. Hops were different. Let me be right back here. All right, so let's see what my hops were. So the grist was the same. So mine was Magnum for bittering. Ended up using Azaka, Simcoe, Azaka, and then dry hops were Columbus, Azaka, and Simcoe. So Mike's our was a little bit different, but they say the same beer. So mine ended up being 1.109, and that was, how many gallons was that? That was a 10-gallon batch, 1.109. He and I both used some orange blossom honey, a pound each. I sent Mike a pound of orange blossom honey. So I got, I'm trying to look at my notes. I don't think I used any DME in this. I think we had a 90-minute boil. He ended up, I think I got a little bit better efficiency than he did. He did add some maple syrup, I think, at the end of his to try to bump up the ABV. I may have added, I did. I added a whole shit ton of DME, so I needed help. But anyway, we got it going. We got what we needed. That was the numbers that we needed. So we hit our numbers. Ours were pretty much dead on as far as the numbers and finishing gravity. I can't remember if his finished a little lower than mine, but I think they finished about the same, really. So anyway, Mike's barrel was once filled with maple syrup and rye whiskey. So he's got a completely different flavor profile than what mine does. Mine was straight whiskey barrel, and I've used it. See, this will be the fourth time that I've used it. And usually I keep a couple handles of cheap Canadian whiskey in there. Just try to give it a little bit more spice. So we'll compare and see how everything works out. Nice. This from Mike. So these are 12 percenters, hence the small pour, the taster here. That's why. Now Mike's, and I've known it, Mike's is a lot clearer than mine. Mine has never cleared out. I don't know why. I'm guessing that's probably from the barrel. I don't know. But so let's get a nose. We'll get a nose on both. Yeah, ton of maple syrup on that. Mine, a little bit of oak, a little bit of barrel. Mine was in a barrel 2 weeks less than Mike's was. So there's barrel in there. There's like some toffee, caramel flavors, notes to it. Mike smells like syrup. I'm not really getting a whole lot of beer other than just the syrup. It is really pronounced. If you've seen Gary's main brew guy, Tap Out Brewing, or if you've seen Man Bear Pigs, Josh's reviews, they both just kept going on and on about the smell. And it's true. It's not exaggerated. So let's get a taste. Maybe a just a little bit of, yeah, let me see, maybe just a little bit of like whiskey coming through. It's got that kind of candy, syrupy kind of flavor to it, which is typical of the syrup. It tastes like maple syrup. It's got a, yeah. It's really good, Mike. Flavors are very similar. I could strip that maple flavor off of Mike's, and there's a lot of similarities to the two of the beers, both of these. And mine's not. I say hot. It's hot. 12%. It's gonna be hot, but it's not bad. A little bit of heat on the side of my tongue, right at the back of the mouth. Mike's is a little bit hotter than mine. This is definitely a breakfast barley wine. Just maple syrup. It's crazy. It's crazy how that works out. Drinking all the ABVs tonight. All the ABVs are in the glasses today. So yeah, man, that's good. Hopefully Mike saves some. Even if it's just a bomber. I've got a bomber of Mike's sitting in my refrigerator. So maybe at some point, if he and I and our wives meet up, we can, I can take it with me. We'll break it out and see how it's aged. Which would be just great. Mike's a super, super good guy. I've had the privilege of meeting Mike in person, spending quite a bit of time with Mike. He's a good dude. He's exactly what you think he's going to be in person. So anyway, enough fawning over Mike. So my IPL, I just pulled my first 2 pints today. So it's there. With all those shenanigans that went on with Brew Day, I think the bitterness is a little bit off. Is it bad? No. But then again, I say that, and there's a lot of crap in the keg. When I was using my auto siphon to get it out of my brew bucket, I got the yeast cake and everything kind of disturbed a little bit. So I got a little bit more trub in there than I would want. But that'll be gone in a few days. It'll settle and everything will be fine. So it'll be good. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. So yeah, and I can't complain. It's hazy AF right now, but it'll clear out. Just give it a few days. So I brewed again Sunday, just a few days ago, and I brewed about a 4.5 gallon batch of New England IPA. So what I had done, I've been just buying ingredients just because this whole Brew Tubers online homebrew club is just kind of kicking me in the ass. I mean, just really getting back into things. I got away from it with my Achilles and stuff. When you can't really get around and do what you want, you tend to kind of move away from things. But anyway, so it was last week. I went out and I bought that WLPO 67 Coastal Haze Ale, right? Yeast blend. So I was like, what the hell am I going to do with it? I'll just brew a NEPA. I've never brewed a good NEPA. Never, ever, ever. Mine all suck. They're horrible. Drain pours. Hot garbage worth of NEPA. So anyway, we're talking on Discord, and one of the members, he had asked a question about some efficiency that he had got. He got a Northern Brewer kit, and the original OG was 1062. Well, he got 1080. And so I was doing some investigation, and that was an extract kit, and I was looking at the all grain kit, and I was like, well, shit, I've got everything I've got downstairs to make that, and I just bought that WLPO 67 yeast. I changed the hops a little bit because I didn't have quite all the hops that I needed, so I changed the hops up, but I put my numbers in the Beersmith. Even with 72% efficiency, my going into the fermentation chamber gravity was 1080. So that tells me that the numbers were all wrong. So anyway, I adjusted everything down. So it should have been about a 1062 beer. And that's what it ended up being, putting in a fermenter. So anyway, so basically the grist is about 8 pounds of Pilsner, a pound, 2 ounces of flaked oats. I think I may have put 1.5 pounds of flaked oats. But anyway, then there's a pound to 2 ounces of white wheat. And I had everything here, so I went ahead and did it. This time, I double crushed my white wheat. I usually send it through with everything else and not worry about it. But I went ahead and I double crushed my white wheat. So, having all the grist there, I got my water done. I played around with some water chemistry. Got all that in there. There's no bittering hops. Everything's Whirlpool. So at 6.5 gallons before pre-boil, I was sitting at 1059, which I think that may be off a little bit. My refractometer, it's an auto correcting, temperature correcting, but it does a poorer job the higher in the heat range that you get, right? So it makes sense, right? The hotter the liquid is, the less it kind of changes, the less it attenuates. the less it corrects itself. So anyway, so that may be a little bit high, but anyway, I went ahead and boiled, and I went ahead and boiled at 60% because I was really approaching where I should be. I was supposed to finish at 1062, so I went ahead and boiled at 60%. So at Whirlpool, I cooled it down to 160, and I added an ounce of Citra, an ounce of Mosaic, an ounce of Sabro, and an ounce of Zaka. Then I Whirlpooled for half an hour, and that was it. Chilled it down to about 65. Pitched my yeast. I did this in an old, so I'm fermenting in a old Coke keg. It's a ball lock converted Coke keg. So I've got about 4.5 gallons in there. Another thing is I use this stuff, and what it is, it's infant gas relief drops. It's the same thing as firm cap. It's no artificial flavors, no artificial colors. It's non-alcoholic. It's simethicone, and that's the same ingredient. It's a silicone, food grade silicone degas agent, right? So this was same price. I think it's about $4 for this small container as it is if you buy the firm cap from like More Beer or whatever, the same size. So I put in two drops per gallon of beer. So I got all that done, and that was Sunday. I think I pitched about. God, it smells awesome, Mike. So I pitched about 3 o'clock. I got a couple pictures, but anyway, what I did, I got a serving keg, and I've got my fermentation keg. So I've got my fermentation keg purged. It's full of CO2, and it's sitting on just under 10 psi of CO2. So then my fermentation keg, after I hooked, it's sitting in there. So you got fermentation keg, serving keg. So I've got a line going from my gas out to my liquid out post, right? So then I've got my spunding valve on the gas in post, and it's set to about 10 psi. So put everything together. So once it equalized, I was down to, I don't know, 6 or 7 or maybe so psi. So let everything go. Everything's sanitized. Everything's fine. So once I get done with fermentation, I can get my my jumper line. I'm gonna get a clear jumper line from liquid out to liquid out, so then I can close transfer oxygen free. So it's a NEPA. So I wanted to dry hop at High Krausen. So I was dicking around, and curiosity got the better of me yesterday evening about 10:30ish. I came down here and I took my gas line off so I didn't lose a whole bunch of gas. Popped the lid, and it was a High Krausen. Potential High Krausen. It had been about 30 hours since I pitched the yeast, so it should be right about High Krausen. So anyway, I could look down in there, and there was probably about 2 inches away from the lid, so I went ahead and I dry hopped. So since we're still in active fermentation, you don't have to worry about the oxygen because the yeast needs the oxygen, right? So what I'm going to do is probably Thursday. I don't know. I'm going to have to get a double dry hop in, right? So I'm going to have to dry hop it again, and I want to dry hop it towards the end of fermentation so I don't have to worry about the oxygen. Now I can kind of hook up my CO2 lines from my Keyser and kind of blow a couple PSI through as I got the lid open, just to kind of blow the oxygen out, but I need to double dry hop, right? So I need to do that. So that's the plans with that. So I've got my very first pressure fermentation going on. Dennis, it's all your fault. So that's that. That's what I've been up to. A lot of rambling and trying some new stuff. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I pretty much nailed my numbers. By the time when I was done with the boil, chilled it down, I was sitting at 1062. That's 4.5 gallons. In the fermenter. 4.5 gallons in the fermenter. So it's all good in the hood. Dry hopped, smells awesome. Yeah, I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but yeah, fucking seamless day. One thing I fucked up, and when I was doing my recirculation for my mash, I for whatever reason, I hooked up my counterflow chiller. So I was going from the mash tun into the pump, out of the pump, into the wort in part of the recirc counterflow chiller, out into the Herms coil, all that, completed that circuit. So I was wondering why my water level went down so much and didn't really come back. So I ended up putting about a half a gallon more water into the mash tun. Not a big deal. pH was fine. All that stuff was fine. Yeah, so I did. My numbers pre-boil was a little high, so I added in a half a gallon more of water. So just to try to get my numbers down, because I was more worried about getting my numbers in volume, because my volume would be there regardless, just because I can adjust how vigorous the boil is. 60%. It's not a super vigorous boil, but at 70%, it's a lot different than 60%. So anyway, so this beer should be done, and hopefully it'll be done this weekend. I'll cold crash it, get that thing transferred, and see if I can get it force carved and drink a little bit of it. That'll mean my Keyser's full. Well, the taps will be full, not full of volume. My kegs, there's not a whole lot of the pumpkin cream ale that Matt and I did. There's quite a bit of barley wine in there, so I got to figure out what I'm gonna do with that. If I'm gonna try to find some bombers, see if I got enough bombers around here where I can bottle it and save it, or if I'm just gonna kind of continue to drink on it. But man, if I drink 1 or 2 of those in the evening, I'm usually asleep on the couch. But anyway, guys, I'm tired of talking to you guys and probably lost all your interest. It's going on 20 minutes. So anyway, guys, I will talk to you next week. All right, cheers.